welcome to class. I know we're all adults here, but isn't it fun and nostalgic to be back? Today we're going to be learning about Sonichu 101, a CWC lecture. I got a whole bunch of Chris Chan videos I want to do, and this one just looks like it's going to be fun because it looks like a bunch of college kids or something. But if you don't know who Sonichu is, it is the electric hedgehog Pokemon. It is the creation of Kristen Weston Chandler. It is his, what is that word, magnum opus or something? Optimus Prime. It is the Optimus Prime of his entire life. It's basically Sonic the Hedgehog, but with Pikachu ears and a tail. And I guess cheeks. But yeah, this is Sonic. I'm excited. This is going to be fun. It is a near 2-hour video. This is going to be the longest video I've ever done, but I'm excited to do it as long as this is going to be entertaining. So thank you guys for hanging out, and don't forget to subscribe. Let's go ahead and roll into it. Sorry about that.
I'm going to get my tea.
Fascinating, Professor.
Shut up! Shut the hell up! No interruptions. What did I say? The rules.
Sonic,
the rules
Sonic
are you can't interrupt.
Canon.
You gotta raise your hand. You all gotta ask. Yes,
What
endless
if I have to
yes.
take a crap?
Please raise your hand.
This is gonna be fun.
And then take
I already got my snacks. You guys ready?
Then do it.
Your hand and then raise it.
As long as you don't talk, it's fine. It's all within industry guidelines. All right. So we're all here for the first and only lesson in the Sonichu 101 class with me, Professor Ben Stain of Patreon. And okay, so we're here to talk about Sonichu, the magnum opus of Christian Weston Chandler, the Virgin with Rage from Virginia. So Sonichu was created, he began it, all right, well the story goes way back to when he was in high school. See, he had to design an album cover.
I feel like he's a little nervous.
That he had to make for class. And he wanted to do a Pokemon album, but he couldn't because he said that he couldn't use copyrighted characters. So he said, well, what can I do? And then he was struck with inspiration. I know, I'll take Sonic the Hedgehog and Pikachu, my two favorite things, combine them into one character, Sonichu, and then that's no longer a copyrighted character. I can use it on the album cover, and that is how Sonichu was born. Any questions? Yes.
Have you ever had an idea as good as that one by Kristen Weston Chandler? I don't think I have.
I have, and we made it probably about the same year.
Yes, hypocrite.
Does the album exist?
Yeah. I think it does actually. I don't remember what it's called. Taboo.
I was confused by that level of yeah, but I guess you explained it.
Yeah. I believe that it is available somewhere on the Wikipedia.
Is he smoking a pipe? Oh, that's a vape. Oh my god.
Yes. Anyway, so the Sonichu canon was begun while he was in college. He realized that he needed a girlfriend. He realized that he needed a sweetheart from the ground up, as he called it, in order to be happy. And so he needed to better himself. So in conjunction with a weekly newsletter called, I forget what it was called, but it was a Sonichu-themed newsletter he would post around his campus. And he would go around and basically it was like a physical newsletter about everything that was happening in Christian's life, along with like the new release of Sonichu. It's like, yes, I've created Sonichu.
I got a feeling like this is going to end up not being about Sonichu.
Hi, thanks for reading. I am a virgin. I need a girlfriend. Please contact me at this number. Yes, Taboo.
He created it in college now when he was 12.
He started making the comic when he was in college. He thought of the character when he was maybe like 15 or 16, I think. Was around the age. All right. So the thing about Sonichu is that the Sonichu canon comprises all of these stories, and there are some unofficial blog posts and Wikipedia entries written by Chris himself that are debatably canon. But these are all the published stories that were in.
Does that say giant penis?
Publications of Sonichu. Now the thing is, he started with issue 0 is the first one, and he continued through episode 12. But in the issues, the story is divided into episodes, which begin with number 1, and numbered separately from the issues themselves. And also there are these things called sub-episodes that happen to sort of interspersed within amongst all the other stories. And stories got reprinted and repackaged and kind of doubled up in later episodes. So the order is kind of debatable, but this is a pretty good
Mac Attack, Backyard Safari,
chronological order.
Off Target.
So I'm gonna
Oh, those are sub episodes.
Sonichu about?
Excellent question. Sonichu is about the story of. All right. Well,
He's so
I'll start with
shy.
Episode 1, Sonichu's origin. In Sonichu's origin, Sonic the Hedgehog is fighting the perfect chaos monster, which is from one of the games. I don't know which. Adventure. He's fighting the
You're
perfect-
talking out of
Hey,
class!
Splash. So Sonichu, Sonic the Hedgehog, he had all the Chaos Emeralds and he became Super Sonic, and he was fighting the perfect Chaos Monster, but he was thrown, from the battle by a wayward strike or something. And so he flew off into the side of town and collided with a wild Pikachu that had been just watching the chaos unfold. And the energy of the Chaos Emeralds caused a new evolution in the Sonichu evolutionary line. Yes?
This already makes 5 times more sense than I thought it was going to.
It makes sense. There is an explanation for everything. Yeah. Digi.
That's not a question. Raise your hands for questions. Can I take a rip on that sick vape dog?
Heck yeah,
Oh my
bro.
God, come on, let's get to the
I can
jokes.
get behind. Jesse, did you have a question?
Yeah, I think Colt Corona has a question.
Cole Corona? He doesn't.
I'm throwing the voice.
Can Sonichu be what, Cole? You have to enunciate.
I think he wants Sonichu to be his friend.
Sonichu's not real, Cole. He's a fictional
Damn it.
character. For fuck's sake. All right. So yes, it was a collision. It was a collision between these Supersonic and thank God and the Pikachu, and he evolved into Sonichu. However, that's not the end of the story, because there was in fact a rainbow of energy that emerged from the evolution. Guy knows what I'm talking about.
I read ahead of the textbook. I know all this stuff.
Oh my God, there was a textbook.
Didn't
He
you?
did not call on you.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I raised my hand.
yeah.
He addressed me
Did-
first.
did-
He addressed
Someone
me
needs to punch
specifically.
him back.
He addressed me.
Demerit,
I'm willing
first
to-
strike, 2 more of those and you're out of here.
Okay.
Okay, so, God. Anyway, the rainbow arced through the sky and hit a Raichu nearby and evolved her into Rosachu, a female of the Sonichu species. And in fact, there's more to it even than that, because later on the story was retconned so that the rainbow actually extended through time and delivered Sonichu eggs, an unspecified number of Sonichu eggs, back in time. And the reason why he did it back in time is because he wanted all the characters that hatched out of the eggs to be of legal age to have sex in his comic when the comic was happening. So he had to. So Sonichu and Rosachu were both adult Pokemon when they evolved, but these eggs went 18 years in the past so that they could hatch, grow up, and then have sex in the present in the canon of the story.
So it's a whole evolutionary line. Like, how many Sonichus are in the story? Like, is it just one who's the main character?
There's the main character Sonichu, and aside from him, there's probably like 15 others or so. Like, there's no nobody knows exactly how.
Why are they only like Pikachus or whatever?
There's Sonichu, Rosachu. There's the chaotic combo, which is like a team of 5 elemental Sonichus.
What about Sonic Mander?
They are wild Sonichu, punchy Sonichu, fighting type. They're all Pokemon, by the way. They're all Pokemon. They all have types and stuff. So and most of them are electric type, but not all. Simone La Rosachu, who's based on Simone from Gurren Lagann, is pure ground or ground steel or something. Anyway, there's Punchy Sonichu, Wild Sonichu, Bubbles Sonichu, and Bubbles Rosachu, Angelica Rosachu, DJ Jamsta Sonichu,
What the
who's one of
fuck?
my personal favorites. Yeah, there's a lot. Maybe I'm sure I'll bring some up as we go through the story. Okay, so Sonichu's origin. That's what happens. They collide and he evolves. Genesis of the Love Hogs. Sonichu goes wandering through the forest, hungry, because he's just evolved, he doesn't know what to do with his new body, and he stumbles upon Rosachu living with her trainer, and is like, I'm hungry, I'm dying, I'm a Pokemon. And so they bring him in, and basically they get to love each other and kiss under a big fireworks display and become heart sweets forever. Yes.
I just wanted to point out that they're consuming Brunswick stew in that comic.
Is that right?
That's right, Brunswick stew.
I'm taking away that demerit. You're
Yeah! I'm back on top, baby!
Demerit! You didn't bring demerit.
Oh!
All right, so Sonichu. Okay, so at the genesis of the
This is
legend,
kinda charming.
Somehow it comes to pass that Sonichu becomes a Pokemon in the care of Christian Weston Chandler, who in the comic is the mayor of Quickville, Virginia. That's CWCville, Virginia, loosely based on Charlottesville. So in Sonichu versus Nateseer, him and Roschu are just at the mall eating hamburgers. And Sonichu's
Nateseer?
complaining about the pickles on his hamburger because he hates pickles.
Nateseer?
And Nateseer, which you'll notice is Christian spelled backwards.
Oh.
But in
Is that like an avatar
he's
name?
just the son of Giovanni, who's kind of a dick, but he happens to have Chris's name backwards and be evil. He shows up with a Zapdos, kidnaps Roschu, and Sonichu beats him and fights him off, and he swears revenge. So in Darkness, Speed, and Lightning is the story of how Bill the scientist, who may or may not be Bill from Pokemon Red and Blue, he has a sample of Sonichu's DNA, but spills an accidental dose of cherry cola into the mix and clones him, and the result is Black Sonichu, or Blatchu, or Blake, as he was later.
Oh, okay, so
How
Shadow.
long are these chapters?
Cherry Cola. Oh my god.
They get longer as they go on, probably maybe 15 to 20 pages, give or take. Some of them are really short, like, what's the one? I think the shortest one is, there's one called Witch Confront, but I can't find it right now. Oh, here it is, the sub-episode. Witch Confront is like 2 pages long. Where was I? Informal meeting. Okay, I just looked it up. Oh, informal meeting is where the real Sonic meets Sonichu, and they cross over formally. And Sonic and him, they meet and they fight to do something. I don't know. I think it's Slawwheel. I think Slawwheel kidnaps Chris's hippo.
I thought Sonic collided with Pikachu to make Sonichu. How is Sonic also still around?
Oh, they didn't merge. He just like whacked into him, and the energy of the Chaos Emerald sort of
So
suffused
it's the Pikachu that evolved.
Okay, so that's making
Yeah,
sense.
he suffused the Pikachu and caused the evolution. Was that what you were gonna ask too? Yeah. Yeah, Sonic is still an entity. And anyway, in informal meeting, they meet up and they fight, and I forget what happens. But,
You mentioned Slawwheel, but I forget who Slawwheel
did I say
is.
Slawwheel?
You did.
Okay, Slawwheel is kind of a recurring villain. Her original name was Mary Lee Walsh because she was just named after the dean of corrections at his school, Piedmont Virginia Community College, which is where he was going to school when he started posting those flyers. All right, so Mary Lee Walsh, aka Slawwheel. I'll get into the name change later because it's important. Mary Lee Walsh, he was posting his flyers and stuff, and but more importantly, he was doing this thing called, he was on his love quest, as he called it, whereas he would hold a attraction sign, which was just a sign that he would sit with saying, like, I am a single man of this age, looking for a woman of such and such age. You know, you must meet these requirements. You must be, you know, this attractive and this wealthy and da 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 da. And you know, please come and talk to me because I'm autistic and I can't, and I'm not good at talking to people. So please just come up and talk to me. Thank you very much for your reading, and stuff like that. And Mary Lee Walsh was like, got him into her office and was like, you can't do that. You need to stop. And in the course of this disciplinary action, she told him that he would not get a girlfriend this way or anyway.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, this was a devastating blow to Chris's heart level, which over the course of the comic, the heart level is explicitly shown to like raise and lower and shatter down to 0 at certain points. Yes,
So is all this information about CWC's life being like explained by him? Or is
a lot of it was revealed by him. He was very okay. He was discovered in 2007 when he posted some of his Sonichu shit onto 4chan, and he gave his contact information. And people contacted him with, you know, kind of like trolly messages, like, you know, drawing like gross erotic pictures of his characters and stuff, which deeply offended him. Deeply offended. And so he started to get mad and like flame back, and he ended up getting an Encyclopedia Dramatica page, or an Encyclopedia Dramatica page, as he likes to call it. And so all right. So the trolls filled this Encyclopedia Dramatica page with, you know, nasty things about him, some of which was true, some of which was just kind of rude, just insults for the sake of it. And Chris was offended by this. So what Chris decided to do in response was to fight the lies with truth and fill up the page with the real story of his life, which turned out to be even more horrifying than the trolls had constructed. And he shared all these details about, like, for example, the girl that he was interested in at the time, which was his first heart-sweet Megan Schroeder, who would later become
Megan,
involved in
if
the
you're watching.
rap contest saga, as it was known. So, you see, it all branches out. It all just kind of becomes this crazy web. So, yeah, there was a contest to do a rap music video themed about Parappa the Rapper, and the winner would get a trip to Redmond, Washington, to go to the Nintendo headquarters. And Chris entered, and he had an absolutely hilarious video that is still available. You can watch it on the Quickie. Kick, punch, kick and turn is one of the best.
I've seen that. I just watched that, I think, yesterday.
It says like birthday boy.
Oh,
for no discernible reason. So, and so he entered this video, and just because there were very few entries, he became a finalist. And so he tried really hard to, like, post on social media and push this thing and try to win the contest. But of course he didn't, because it was totally inept and a totally amateur effort. It was just awful. He was never going to win. But he blamed the guy who won. The guy who did win the competition, he held a grudge against for a long time, because he blamed him that he was still a virgin, because he thought that if he had won the trip, he could have brought Megan with him on the trip to Redmond, and they could have advanced their relationship. Hey, settle down, you two. So yeah, I mean, there's more to Megan, but that's the thing. She was a girlfriend that he was really creepy to for a long time, and she eventually broke off communications with. That was the first heart suite, and there were many more. There was Ivy, who he was most infatuated with.
Creepy.
The thing about Ivy he was very infatuated with, even though he never saw her. He only ever saw drawings of her. And personally, I think that probably made her more appealing to him on some level. He made videos like proposing to her and like performing songs in her honor and stuff. The entire 3 of the 4 specials, CWC Holding Out for a Hero, Wedding Comic, and Giant Penis Comic, are all about saving Ivy from the clutches of 4chan, basically, marrying her and then fucking her on their honeymoon. Yes.
Have any of the people in his life who have become part of the drama made any official public statements to the people?
Good question, and not really. I think like that guy who won the contest, I think he may have mentioned on like Twitter or something that like, no, I'm not interested in this person. I have nothing to do with him. I think contact was made with a couple of people that went to high school with him, and they answered questions and talked about how he was just kind of a sort of an innocent but kind of creepy, like annoying kid that no one really wanted to hang out with. So yeah, but it's not. There was no like huge drama about like real people coming back. Most of the drama in Chris's life has been trolls posing as people and sort of getting him along for the ride. So the thing about Chris's life is that Chris believes himself to be embroiled in this kind of widespread, world-spanning network of people, when in fact it is just like a small community that are all assuming these false identities and just messing with him. And he's more skeptical now, but back in the day, he always fell for it. Yeah, guy.
On several instances, hadn't he come to believe that such popular figures as Jay-Z were directly involved with his life, attempting to engage in business and pleasurable activity?
That brings me back to the name change of Slawwheel Ryan, or Mary Lee Walsh to Slawwheel Ryan. You see, during what was known as the Miyamoto saga, hey, dude, simmer down. During what was known as the Miyamoto saga, Chris believed himself to be in contact with the Shigeru Miyamoto, who was offering him a deal on Sonichu.
See, I already knew that. It's just funnier because these guys are pretty funny.
And Chris thought he was communicating with Reggie Fils-Aime. I'm not gonna say it. And he thought that Jay-Z was Nintendo's lawyer in this scenario. And he communicated with Jay-Z, and that's it. There's one incredible email where Reggie is like, Reggie Fils-Aime, the guy from Nintendo.
He's retiring now.
It's Reggie Fils-Aime.
Reggie Fils-Aime. Okay. So Reggie Fils-Aime says like, Chris, you're an artist and stuff, but this is all in character, but I don't like the way, you comport yourself and you don't talk professionally, and I don't like your attitude in these emails you've been having. And Chris comes back with like, well, you know what? I bet you smoke and drink, don't you? Don't you know that smoking and drinking are poison and bad for you, and only bad people do them? And after which I think Reggie was just like, I'm done. Reggie. So, anyway, the name change. Yeah, Chris was talking to Shigeru Miyamoto, and Shigeru Miyamoto said, listen, Chris, we love your story. We want to make a game out of it, but it's got all these real people in the story, like Mary Lee Walsh, and a couple more. His names escape me at the moment. But anyway, so he went back and retooled a bunch of his names and changed a bunch of names of characters into like weird sort of pseudo anagrams of their original names. So Mary Lee Walsh became Slawwheel the Witch or Slawwheel Ryan. Terrible change. I wish it was the old way. Yes.
Were there any details proposed to CWC about what kind of game this is going to be?
Good question. And the thing about that is that Chris has always dreamed of having a video game made, but he's always been extremely non-specific and doesn't even seem to really care much about what kind of game it is. Like early on, he talked. I think the only references he's ever made to Sonichu as a game would be like basically a Pokemon version that includes Sonichu and basically just a Sonic game, but with Sonichu as the lead character. So he just wants it to just make Sonic, but with Sonichu, or just make Pokemon, but with Sonichu. Yes. Oh, yeah.
Would it be fair to say that the Sonichu game is Chris's Kokoro wish?
I'm not familiar with that.
Really wanted to. Well, I don't know, he's always seemed kind of limp about it, honestly. Yeah, Jesse.
What's Kokoro wish?
Best guy ever. Do you want to explain the meme?
Yeah, I forget the name of the woman who created it. Do you remember?
I should remember.
There is a woman who is of similar lolcow on the internet.
I should know because I used to post on the Spore forums with her.
Right.
I
There was
didn't
a
know she
woman.
was famous at the time.
She had an extremely degenerate lifestyle where she lived in this weird hippie house with a bunch of other people and this one guy who had a job who supported all of them.
Okay,
she made
but,
comics.
But all right, but yeah.
The point is she drew a comic, but she got so mad at the guy who supported all of them, she made this comic called My Kokoro Wish, in which she explained all the ways he had wronged her and then kind of offered him a way to absolve himself by creating an entire game for her except for art, which she would supply, and presenting it to her in apology, and then that is her Kokoro wish, that he would make amends.
The takeaway line, the line
Yeah.
at the beginning is, do you know, Kokoro is Japanese for heart, heartfelt. Do you know what my Kokoro wish is? It is this. And then she lambasts this guy. All right.
Okay.
Let's keep it on the subject of Christian Western Champion.
Shouldn't it be about Sonichu?
All right, so that's the story of the name change. So Metal Combat. In Metal Combat, Dr. Robotnik builds a Metal Sonichu and they fight. in Antuant Prophecy. All right, so this is where the real shit. This is where the shit starts to get real. This is the first story that has, where these two stories or three stories are the first appearances of real life friends, rivals, and girlfriends that Chris knew. So in Antuant Prophecy, Christian, Weston Chandler, and Sonichu are walking around and they find a cave, sort of a Zelda-esque cave, in which someone reveals that Christian, Weston Chandler, and Sonichu are the subject of prophecy, which basically just prophesizes the existence of Sonichu. That is basically the extent of the prophecy.
Oh, yeah?
But it's called the Antuant Prophecy. And in Chaos and Serenity and the Evil That Stomped Quickville, he teams up with Sarah. Okay, Sarah Hammer was her real name, but she was retconned to Sarama Rosachu. Anyway, and her like boyfriend at the time, who Chris held a deep rivalry with. Those three sort of all get Sonichu powers and become able to transform into Sonichu. The other two quickly resigned from relevance, probably when Chris lost contact with that girl. But Chris retains his Sonichu transformation powers and continues to fight throughout the series in a transformed state known as Chris Chan Sonichu, who is basically just a blue recolor of Sonichu, which basically just makes him look exactly like original Sonic. Yes, did you?
Can you explain?
Of course, he's got to be able to transform like Super Saiyan.
Well, he calls himself Chris Chan. He started that meme, but alright, so he was born as Christopher Weston Chandler. His name, due to a shenanigan involving a singing bear at a mall. Christian's dad decided to change his name at the age of like 8. Him and his dad both decided that they wanted to change his name to Christian Weston Chandler. And ever since then, he's been weirdly like invested in his name. He uses his initials for everything, like Quickville, Yes.
Please elaborate on the bear incident.
Okay. Yeah. So
See, I know about
the
this one
bear
too. It's
incident
God, Jesus, and the bear.
is he was at the mall, and there was like a singing troupe of bears, right? It was like the conductor of the singing troupe was dressed up as a bear, and Chris talked to the bear, and the bear misheard Chris's name as Christian, even though he said Christopher. And his dad took this as like a sign from God that he had named him wrong. He said that like he had wanted to name him Christian, but had chickened out and named him Christopher instead.
Why?
So
Why would you chicken
and
out?
changed him, yes.
So is the autism like genetic? Is it like in the genes of the?
None of his other family members are known to have autism. In fact, some of his like half siblings are pretty successful and cool dudes. Yes.
I just wanted to say that I really liked how when I was reading the textbook, it was specifically noted that Chris went on repeatedly to thank God, Jesus, and the bear.
I was going to say that.
Yeah, okay.
When Chris talks about his name, he will sometimes make reference to
It's
God,
hot, man.
Jesus,
It's so
and the
hot.
bear, because he believes that the bear was like he believes it was like a God-sent event, right?
The Holy
so
Trinity.
So the bear, the Holy Trinity of Christianity. The bear was divine somehow. So
Because his name is Chris Chan because Christian Chandler.
yeah.
But is he
Christian-
aware that
Christian-
Chan is also a anime meme name?
Yeah, I think he learned of the suffix Chan, and then was like, oh, I'm Christian, but also Chris Chandler, and so it all kind of he made up the name for
Very
himself.
happy coincidence.
Well, because he was really into Excel Saga among a few other anime, so he would have known the meaning of the yeah.
What are Chris Chan's other favorite anime?
Oh man,
I know he likes Sailor Moon.
He did like Sailor Moon. He liked Excel Saga. Oh god. He's actually not that into anime. he doesn't watch that much. He mostly
I
watches
was gonna say
like,
Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! I know that.
That was his favorite show for a long time.
Yeah. Why doesn't he go back to work at Burger King?
Actually, he did work at Burger King. He was fired. He was fired. I'm 90% sure it was Burger King. I could be wrong, but I think it was Burger King. But he was fired from Burger King for doing a Donald Duck impersonation to a kid, which he does a really good Donald Duck impersonation. It's one of his few talents. Did you?
Hold on for a second. The sound's so stuck.
Oh no! All right, we're back from recess.
My God, he's drinking.
Whatever it is you do. And so I want to take a step back here because.
All right, we were 30 minutes in, just about 30 minutes in.
Yep. Don't tell your parents.
I think we need bear.
Never tell your parents. All right.
I need you.
So I feel like I skipped an important point here, which is the sub episode. See that right at the end there, I was talking about Antuan prophecy, chaos and serenity, and the evil that stomps quickly, and that was the beginning of Chris himself as basically as the main character of the story. See, before that, there was a thin veneer that the story was not about Chris himself, by keeping Sonichu as the protagonist. But he couldn't fully resist the idea of self-insert, just fucking talking about his own life. So that's what the sub-episodes are for. These are totally about Chris, mostly don't involve the Sonichus, although they do come in here now and then. And they are for the most part, fictionalized retellings of events from his real life. Most of them involve him loitering in a public place, being ejected by security. Only in this version, he summons the power of Sonichu and destroys the mall cops or whatever. Ugh. Yes, best guy ever.
If it's not appropriate now, that's fine. But can you talk a little bit about Chris's medallion?
Oh my fucking god! I forgot about the medallion. Yeah. Well, now that you mention, I don't exactly know when that started because I don't think he wore it in high school. I think he started wearing it when he was making the comic. Anyway, yeah, he has a clay medallion in the shape of Sonichu that he wore everywhere for years and years, and in all his public appearances and all his YouTube videos. And in the comic, it is ostensibly the source of his powers, but not really, because that was sort of retconned later. Yes, guy.
Can I say the meme?
Go on.
Crayola model magic.
Crayola model magic. That's what it was made of. Yes, dude.
Public appearances?
I mean, YouTube videos mostly. That is basically how he communicated with everyone throughout this entire period. So let me just go through these sub-episodes real quick. So Jerkopcaster Pie, because it was not spelled correctly. I think it's supposed to be catastrophe, but it was consistently spelled this way. Basically, he goes to the mall and meets mall cops, or jerk cops, as he calls them, who are later revealed to be brainwashed minions of Slaw Wheel Ryan. Anyway, they try to kick him out of the mall. One of them transforms into a robot and he fights them off. In The Rise and Fall of My Heart, he's again at the mall, looking for love with his attraction sign. And some girl comes up to him. Yeah, remember that? A girl, Hannah, comes up to him and says, "I like you. I'll go on a date with you." And he says, "Yes, my love quest is finally over." And has a big, like, full-page spread of him posing in triumph. But then he goes to meet her on the date. Yes, guy.
And his heart meter was in full swing.
I'm getting to it.
Okay.
Yeah, this is really fascinating. I like this. I like how like into it they are.
Anyway, yes, and his heart meter, you were right, 100%. Yeah, Jesse.
Are you gonna get in trouble for threatening to shoot us?
So, anyway, she comes to the date and is like, actually, I was just kidding. It was just a prank, bro. And he goes, "No!" in the middle of the mall, which actually happened. Got him banned from the mall. But then the chapter ends with him writing like a sad letter to Hannah, like, I thought you would really cheer me up and made my life, but in fact, you only shattered my heart level down to even lower. Shattered it all. I know. They shattered it all the way down to 0%. How could you do this to me? And by the way, in both this story and the previous one, the characters are just like lambasted as just truly evil people. These real live people that are just doing their jobs, or just maybe messing a little bit with a harmless idiot. They're cast as like, it's portrayed as though like, hurting my feelings is the worst crime a person can commit. There is nothing like, how could anyone hurt my feelings? It's like a consistent theme, especially in the early work. Witch Confront is pretty boring. Him and Sonic, I think Slaw Wheel captures his mom, and him and Sonichu go and like blast her with beams, and she dies. But she's not actually dead because she comes back later. Yes, guy.
Is this where the Cursey Hameha comes in?
Oh my fucking god, the Cursey Hameha. Yeah. So he had I don't know where it came from. It might have come in the comic, but yeah, in Jerkopcaster, the way that he defeats the Jerkeef, or the Jerkop Chief, is that he uses his special attack, which is the Cursey Hameha, which is a Kamehameha wave, but instead of actually damaging them, it just curses you with extreme bad luck and misfortune. So he uses the Cursey Hameha on the Jerkop, and he says, "Ha, I didn't feel a thing." And the Jerkop, and Chris says, "Oh, you will." And then one of his subordinates come out and is like, "Chief, your wife's on the phone. She hates you for your filthy smoking habits, and she's divorced you and taken the kids." And the guy's like,
my
"No, God." He says, "My soul hurts." And Chris says, "So did mine. And my heart was previously shattered too. Because I was hurt, therefore I have full license to just destroy your life." Yes, guy.
And so just to say, in lots of the YouTube videos,
Shut
Chris
up.
will,
Who's teaching
Chris
this
will do
class?
it.
Yeah,
And
he does it in real life sometimes. So Mick Attack. All right, so I have to get my notes out of it because Mick Attack is the fucking biggest. Mick Attack is where shit starts to really get off the So it takes place at MCDville, which is McDonald's basically, and so there's jerk cops and then there's managers, because mall cops and managers are the people that come and fuck with them and try and be like, "Stop loitering at my store with your sign trying to attract a boyfriend-free girl." So he's confronted by the manager.
I'm telling you, it doesn't sound like this guy is a real fucking person, but he is.
Seinor. Married Seinor comic. Nobody knows what it means. WM manager. These three managers accosted together, and he uses his medallion, right? Like, he uses his Sonichu powers, because as the creator of all the Sonichus in comic, he has the power of every Sonichu that he's created. So I think in this particular instance, he summons the power of Angelica Rosechu, who is flying type, and uses the whirlwind to just blows them away. But then they come back, and then one of the other Sonichus, Darkbind Sonichu, who is a cross between Sonic the Hedgehog, Pikachu, because he's a Pikachu, Link from Zelda, and Darkwing Duck. Those are the four inspirations that come together to create Darkbind Sonichu. and Darkbind Sonichu is on some quest. He's on a quest to like revive his petrified girlfriend from like some foreign land. And to do it, he needs to collect the 7 Sonichu balls, which are basically the Dragon Balls. Because when you get them together, you become ultimately powerful and can do anything.
Or the Chaos Emeralds.
Later, comes the conflict with that because the other Sonichus want to collect the Sonichu balls for their own purposes. But that's here. So yeah, so that's Make Attack. Backyard Safari is he goes to the mall, and again he's accosted by jerk cops. But this time he portrays them as like a nature documentary. Like these are the jerk cops in the native habitat. Here's how stupid they are with a little diagram. Like here's their stupid genitals that you should always aim for when you are fighting them because they're weak there. and so he ends that one by he collects them all and he like picks up the jerk heap and like bowls them all in a big like bowling thing. And then Off Target. Off Target's the other big one. All right. So in Off Target is the I'm sorry. In Make Attack, there's an important detail in Make Attack. The way that he finally gets out of the situation in Make Attack, even after Darkbind shows up, Darkbind's not enough. He has so the ancient spirit of his Cherokee ancestor appears to him in a vision, right? So Christian is like 1/16th Cherokee. Yeah. He believes that he has like 1/16th Cherokee heritage, and he thinks that he has inherited some kind of like ancient legacy, and that's the Anshu and prophecy is a part of this Cherokean. That's how he says it. He doesn't say Cherokee, but it's Cherokean legacy. And so it's the ancient leader of the Cherokean clan appears to him and tells him like, you've gotta like look deep in your heart, Chris. Think about all the friends you've made on your love quest, both online, both in real life and on Facebook.com, and just use that power of friendship. And he digs deep into his heart and he summons his female doppelganger, Crystal Weston Chandler. And the two of them transform into Sonichu forms and combine and use a joint attack and defeat it. Crystal Weston Chandler becomes important later. Interesting thing about the ancient leader of the Cherokean clan, even though he is ostensibly Native American, he dresses in like a golden, like Roman gladiator style thing. Like he's no relation at all to the actual Cherokee tribes of the real world. And then
that doesn't make any sense.
Oh yes, in Off Target, an evil Super Sentai named Baggett arrives, transforms. He's like a super jerk cop, and kidnaps Chris, and then Crystal comes back and saves him basically. So Crystal is his stalwart ally from here on out.
What's the release schedule of the sub episodes relative to the main episode?
The sub episodes would mostly come out. There would usually be like one amidst like 3 regular stories in an issue, but then Sonichu issue 4 is just like a bunch of reprinted sub episodes along with a couple new ones.
So how much publishing time has taken place since the beginning?
Okay, the first Sonichu issue 0 was released in 2004, and I think issue 10 was released in like 2010. So they would come out like they would come out faster early on, and then more and more space apart as it went on. But I think he did about 10 issues in maybe 6 years. So he would get one out every like 1 or 2 out a year on average, which would not be bad if like his art was professional. But like if you have not actually seen what a Sonichu comic looks like, there's no excuse for it to take that long. Yes. All right. So that's the sub episode. So after this part where he basically made himself the main character of the actual.
Alright, we're all set.
Now we take an entry.
Shut up! Class is in session. All right. So as I was saying.
I like how they're all drinking
so
again.
This point where Chris once again becomes the protagonist of this, or basically supplants Sonichu as the protagonist of the series, marks the end of the sub episodes because there was no longer any need for that outlet of him as character. Did you have a question?
I was thinking I might have to sneeze, but I don't.
You don't have to raise your hand to sneeze. You can't. I appreciate the gesture. All right, so here we go. Sonichu babies, right? Sonichu babies is where you get into the time travel thing about how the extra eggs were spat out of the rainbow, and went back in time and grew up in all these various circumstances into the chaotic combo, which is the team of grass type Wild Sonichu, fighting type Punchy Sonichu, flying type Angelica Rosachu, water type Bubbles Rosachu, and did I already say psychic type Magichan? Magichan. which is a pun on magician, apparently. Magician was actually raised telepathically by Mewtwo. He lived in a cave. He lived in a cave just like meditating. Actually, all right. So the thing about Magichan is that he is by far the most powerful character in Sonichu. Magichan can do he knows everything all the time. He can do basically anything. And yet, no one takes him seriously or listens to him at all. And in fact, his initial introduction has him meditating as a Sonichu baby, which is called a Sani, is the baby form, or a Rosie, Sani or Rosie. And he's meditating as a Sani, and then he farts, breaks his own concentration, and that evolves him into yeah. That is the origin of the most powerful, wisest guy. Just to give you a sense of how powerful Magichan is later on in the series, Chris, I don't think this is in the comic, or it might have been actually. Magichan is said to be continually monitoring every home of every person in Quickville, Virginia, to make sure that no homosexual activity is happening.
A real American!
Yeah, a real American. Fight for the right of every man to not be gay. Gosh. Anyway, so the Sonichu babies is the origin stories of these other five, and they're mostly that's fine and all. Moving on. When hedgehogs meet, they all get together when Black Sonichu, aka Lachu, aka Blake, steals the sunstone, or the perfect sun. There's some stone artifact guarded by Flame the Sunbird, who is just Kazooie from Banjo-Kazooie. and not a Pokemon. Specifically said, not a Pokemon. I don't know what it is, but it is not a Pokemon. Even though it later in that issue uses Drill Peck. It specifically does. So fuck that, right? It doesn't make any sense. So
Explain yourself, Chris.
That's right. Endless Wonder. Fucking demerit, because you didn't raise your hand. So hedgehogs meet. Black Sonichu steals the Sunstone, and they all get together and get it back, and they meet Sonichu, and they all become best friends. Best friends Cherokee in the wedding is the return of Saram Rosachu, and she's marrying someone. Someone Chris doesn't know, so he chose to represent the groom in the wedding as Jax Knight from Yu-Gi-Oh! It's a Yu-Gi-Oh! card. Wes Isley is the name of the bad guy from this section here. He's the boyfriend he was jealous of. Wes Isley Sonichu shows up at that wedding and kidnaps her, and Chris fights him. And anyway, that issue gets basically, it's implied in that issue that he's over Sarah, he doesn't care that she's getting married because he's got a new girlfriend who it turned out later was Megan, the one that he tried to get to go to Redmond, Virginia for the Parappa Rappa competition. Next issue is maybe one of my favorites. It's called One Lucky Dog, and it's full of genuine human pathos. It actually kind of gets me. I'm not kidding. One Lucky Dog is Chris's dog. I think his name was Clover. Died, and in this issue, he starts off with a photo montage of pictures of his dog when she was alive, Clover. And
I remember that. I saw that in the comprehensive history. It was kind of sad. It was very sad.
And magical moonbeams come down and bring her to life as an anthropomorphic dog creature. And Chris is like, "Hey, I see you're a magic creature now. Let me show you around." And he takes her to, and this is when it is established that he actually has a portal to Quickville in his closet behind a DDR map that he keeps up against his wall. So he takes her to his room and opens up the DDR map and brings her through to Quickville. And she's like, "Wow, master, you live in this city?" And he's like, "Yeah." And so he gives her, he's like, I'm the mayor of Quickville, Virginia. And my office is at the top of this shopping mall. Here's my assistant. I forget the assistant's name. But he's like, "Here's a cell phone and my credit card. You can buy anything you want. You can live happily here in Quickville." And from then on, Patty Chan. Patty was the name of the dog. So from then on, Patty Chan is sort of a side character who shows up once or twice later on to save the day. It's really sweet. Yep. Yes, the boo.
Time chapter?
Sorry?
12.5?
Well, it's just because it's called 12.5 because it was inserted at the last minute. After the issue was actually released, I think. It was sort of just jammed in there. sort of a side story. Yes.
Sorry for the bad timing. I was totally thrown off by the poster falling.
Yeah, they could probably be distracting.
Solved. All right. Shattered hearts and entrapment. Once again, the stakes are raised. The shit starts to get really real. All right. So in Shattered Hearts and Entrapment, Swallowtail Ryan stages an actual fucking attack on Quickville. I think she gets together all like the villains from the previous chapters, which I may have said this, but he went to Piedmont, Virginia Community College, PVCC. In the comic, the PVCC stands for the Private Villa of Corrupted Citizens, which is the league of all the evil people, all the managers and jerk-offs and stuff that have been fucked with them over the years, and along with this Dean of Discipline, Marilyn Wall, that, fucked him harder than anyone ever had. So, Shattered Hearts and Entrapment, they all get together and stage like a big attack.
I wonder if this woman actually knows that she's been made into a comic book villain.
The end result of the attack is that Crystal Weston Chandler becomes locked in something called the Dark Mirror Hole. Like she gets pulled into this like dark portal called the Dark Mirror, and Chris is trying to like pull her out, like no, but he kind of partially dips in before he has to let her go and come back. But his medallion is immersed in the darkness of the Dark Mirror Hole, and as a result, Nate's from back fucking here, right? Nate's he like a dark version of the medallion is like generated on him, and he awakens to his true self as not just Nate's but Reldnak Natsu Nate's, which is Christian Weston Chandler backwards, and so he like fully comes into his own as the dark opposite of Chris Chandler. And the thing about Reldnak Natsu Nate's is that he is basically just Chris but gay.
Oh my god.
Actually, it's more subtle than that. He's not Chris but gay. He's Chris, but he's given in to his gay. Like, he never comes right out and says, like, I'm gay, I want to be gay, but you are actually gay. But it's like strongly implied that it's like Chris has urges that Nate's has given into, and that's what separates the two of them in his eyes. So that's the ultimate, well, not the ultimate villain, but one of the main villains of the series. It's just gay Chris.
We all have gay Chris inside us.
Evil is afoot. I'm sorry, class. Talk amongst yourselves for a moment while I. Right. In Evil is afoot, Reldnak Natsu comes and makes his presence known, and the two of them have a battle. And it is revealed that the 7 Sonichu balls, they have to get the 7 Sonichu balls, and the reason they need them is to free Crystal Weston Chandler from the Dark Mirror Hole. That's what they need the balls for. But also in this chapter, it's another story from Chris's childhood that is revealed. You see, as in high school, he was the basketball team water boy. And then one day,
Of course he was.
He was like at his locker, and he was hit in the back of the head with a basketball. And at that moment of impact, his first original character ever appeared to him in his mind. And that character was Bionic the Hedgehog, brother of Sonic the Hedgehog. He's not like a robot or anything. He's not called Bionic because he's like a bionic man. He's called Bionic because he plays basketball. And basketball starts with a B. So he's just orange Sonic the Hedgehog when he plays basketball. And that's Bionic. So that happens in this chapter 2. Alright. Anyway, the reason all that's relevant is because Chris realizes that one of the Sonichu balls is back in time. It was like created at the moment of conception of Bionic Hedgehog. So he has to get Magi-Chan to create a fucking time orb that he can travel back in time with. It's actually like a magical hamster ball that they have to like run in. And like the rolling action of it is what moves them through time. And then you have to go back to his youth and get the ball and get out. Oh, by the way, Darkvine Sonichu, the Darkwing Duck guy, he actually had 2 of the balls already because he was collecting them to try and free his petrified lover. So in Time Hogs, they go back in time and they do that. And the thing about Time Hogs is that at the end of Time Hogs, Chris was by this point, he was getting a little bit notorious, and people were talking about him on forums and stuff. And Chris was aware that people were criticizing him for being too much of a self-insert character and being basically the supplanted protagonist of the story that was ostensibly about Sonichu. So at the end of Time Hogs, what has happened is there's an accident with the Time Orb, and he accidentally falls out of it into the Time Void, and they lose it. And they're like, where's Chris? And Magi-Chan says that like he's lost in time. He's just gonna have to like fly through time for a while, and he'll just come out whenever he comes out. There's nothing we can do. So Chris is out of the story for a while at that point. And while he's in the void, he's sort of like seeing visions, and there's like snippets of Chris's life that are like floating through him because a lot of time passed while he was writing the story. So he sort of uses this time in the time void to sort of like mentally catch his character up to his real world self. All these events sort of transpired in like a time compressed.
So it's kind of clever. I like that.
So at what point in this releasing did like the interest in the story go from people reading a really stupid comic to people viewing it as a vehicle for viewing his life? Like when did that become the matter of intrigue that it was like a window into his life?
Well, the original hub for Chris Chan knowledge was his Encyclopedia Dramatica page, but there was sort of like an ideological divide wherein like some people were just interested in Chris as like a lolcow and a vessel for abuse. They just wanted to like abuse him and hurt him. And other people were really fascinated by Chris and wanted to, kind of just document for the sake of documentation. And those people split off and formed the Quickie, which is that's not entirely accurate because there is a lot of sort of just stupid abuse in the wording of the Quickie that I don't appreciate, but it's all like a relic from when it was formed by the Encyclopedia Dramatica people. But yeah, it's I don't know, maybe like a year or two after he was discovered in 2007, somewhere around there. Probably 2008 or so, I would say. Yeah, best guy.
Which one are you, Professor Ben?
I am a documenter. I follow the prime directive, like no interfering with the development of a developing civilization. That's how I feel about Chris Chan. He's more interesting to observe than to actually like try and fuck with. So, Rage Against the Garbage. All right. So as I said, by this point, Chris was getting some criticism. He was becoming notorious, and he was aware of the trolls, and they were a big problem for him. And so, Rage Against the Garbage it continues the quest for the Sonichu balls. Now, Chris sort of parodied 4chan in the comic as an entity called 4cent Garbage, which is a company that produces a magazine, maybe, and the magazine consists entirely of like meme images and like abuse directed towards random people. And the guy who owns 4cent Garbage is Jason Kendrick Howell, who is another real person whose name was changed. I forget what it was changed to, but he is this kind of evil cloaked figure who, I guess he was a 4chaner. He was one of the Encyclopedia Dramatica people. But Chris characterizes as someone who lives for nothing other than to abuse people. When they finally confront him, he says, like, I am a miserable, wretch of a person, just like everyone else, and the only meaning I can derive from my existence is to make everyone else as or more miserable than I am. And that's how Chris saw 4chan and his trolls. He saw them as just abusing him for no reason at all. He didn't see any reason why he would be targeted other than an act of random persecution. So in Rage Against the Garbage, the remaining Sonichu and the Chaotic Combo, they go to 4cent Garbage to retrieve a ball, and on the way up there, they go on this elevator. Sonichu and Rozuchu go on an elevator, and they go up through all these floors, and the door opens on every floor. And as they pass it, they see sort of a montage of the things being portrayed on 4cent Garbage, and it is just sort of a weird, like, mishmash of images. Some of them are like, Chris Chan takes the opportunity to tell a joke that his dad made that he thought was really funny, which is the door opens on an image of President Obama painting the White House black. And Chris was like, yeah, my dad thought of that joke, and I thought it was really funny, so I just put it in there. And at one point, they pass another floor, and someone is making like an edit of, there's an image of Chris from earlier in the comic where he's drinking from like a straw, but the straw is like huge. He's like, oh, and it's gross. So people like made memes out of it and stuff. So there's one of a guy sitting at a desk editing an image like that, and Chris, just for a second, a time void opens and just Chris's fist pops out of the time void and just like socks the guy, and then Rozuchu and Sonichu like high five in the elevator, like, yeah, go get him, Dad. All the Sonichus call him Dad, even though they all fuck each other. That's cool. Best guy.
So Chris is popping out of the time void to do things, and sometimes
that was just like a little one-off gag.
Okay.
I think that's the only time it happened. So then they get to the top and they meet Jason Kendrick Howell. Oh, holy shit! I completely neglected. I don't even remember where this happened, but this reminds me. The reason that they went to 4cent Garbage in the first place is, yes, at the beginning of Rage Against the Garbage. Oh my god, this is so important, and I almost missed it. I'm so happy that I remembered just in time. The reason they go to 4 Cent Garbage, it's like, well, the chaotic combo are searching for the ball, but Sonichu and Rosachu go there because they see slanderous pictures of themselves on the internet, posted by 4 Cent Garbage. Like, we gotta go there and politely ask that guy to take our images down. But Rosachu was like, oh, look at all these pictures of me with a dick. Because this was one of Chris's like biggest triggers, was Rosachu being portrayed with a dick. Like, nothing set him off more than that. So Rosachu was like, well, I'm gonna take pictures to show what a real woman I am. So she fucking, took nude photos of herself and posted them up there and stuff for everyone to see. Because like, that's the truth.
That's exactly what Raichu would do.
Nudity depicted, the sex scenes depicted, are the sex scenes like in the screen, like how frequent are they?
They are, but at some point they were sort of like sectioned off into like their own. Like you could read like the clean version or the dirty version. So yeah, there was explicit sex in the pages of Sonichu, but it was not in like the widely disseminated release. Yes.
If CWC is opposed to homosexuality, or at least at this time, has he made a statement about why his sexuality is okay?
Well, at this, these days Chris is kind of a weird sort of sexual chimera of things. at this point, he was a straight guy. Yeah. So he saw himself as perfectly milquetoast, no deviancy there, no sir. Anyway, so Rosachu takes nude pictures of herself to put on this website to rage against the garbage, like to fight against their dirty slander. But it doesn't work. They just keep putting more. So Rosachu gets all of her friends together. All of her friends. We're all gonna fucking take nude pictures of ourselves and post them on 4chan or on 4 Cent Garbage, and they all do it together. But it still doesn't work. And in the course of that, Zephina Rosachu, this is a famous, sort of notorious line from the comic. Zephina Rosachu, a 14-year-old Rosachu, is like, hey, I want to join too. And Rosachu is like, sorry, Zephina, but you're too young. Unfortunately, because of the dumb laws, you're not allowed to take naked pictures with us. And she's like, that's okay. Because she's like a firefly. She's bug electric, so she works with them. She's like a lighting guy. She like shines the light on them for good photos and
To be fair, Pokemon don't have to be 18.
That's that. Anyway, so that's the impetus.
Like, in the games, you could just get, like, a level 1 and a level 1 and make them breed. Just saying.
Is the biggest slight against Magic-Chan in the entire series. In this story, holy fuck. Alright, there's another dark Rosachu egg that was planted on the moon and raised by an evil entity called Count Graduan, who is the symbolic representation of Christian's graduation from high school, which was a very sad time for him. He did not like graduating from high school. And so Graduan raised Sylvana Rosachu as an what's the word when you're not a boy and a girl?
Hermaphrodite.
She was a hermaphrodite. Yes, she was a hermaphrodite. Or he cursed her with hermaphroditism in exchange for dark powers. And so in spring break 2008, Sylvana Rosachu comes back to the fucking party they're having.
Sorry, it's like 4 a.m.
Sonichu and Bubbles Rosachu have started dating at this point in secret. Like everyone knows it, but they're trying to keep it secret, and everyone's just kind of going along with the ruse. So Bubbles Rosachu and Black Sonichu go off to have sex, but Sylvana Rosachu transforms herself and disguises herself as Bubbles and tricks Black Sonichu into having sex with her. He doesn't know that her vagina is capable of secreting paralytic fluids that paralyze him and knock him out. And she stuffs him under a bridge. And then she's like, and now I'm going to go get Bubbles. And she transforms into Black Sonichu to do the exact same thing. And at this point, Magic-Chan Sonichu, the omnipotent god of the convivium, he mentally contacts Bubbles and he says, Bubbles, Black Sonichu is coming to where you are, but he is not Black Sonichu. He is Sylvana Rosachu transformed and in disguise, trying to sabotage you. And she's like, Magic-Chan, shut up. I want to have sex with Black Sonichu.
Oh my
so
fucking god.
Even though he's laid out in no uncertain terms what the ruse was. She just completely ignores it, does it anyway. The same thing happens. She gets paralyzed and knocked out. And then I think Chris comes in and beats her or something. Later on, Sylvana transforms into Meg from Family Guy, and like Chris Chan makes out with her. Chris really liked Meg from Family Guy, and so she tries to seduce him by becoming Meg, and he like makes out with her, but then I forget it never went anywhere. Next issue, yes, best guy.
Oh shit! I'm sorry. I've been sitting down for a very long time.
I don't know if we talked about how that ended.
Oh well, yeah. Jason Kendrick Howell is the guy in charge of it on the top, and he is Oh, well, the way that, yeah, they politely ask him to please stop posting nude or like slanderous images of us on the internet. And he's like, no, I hate everything. I'm going to keep being evil. And and they're like, all right, well, we tried. So they just leave. Or they're going to leave. But Jason Kendrick Howell is not satisfied with this. He's like, yes, Rosachu, yes, leave and play with your pickle, meaning her penis. And then he takes out a pickle and throws it at her. and she turns around and catches it and is like, what? And like crushes the pickle in her hands. And then she transforms into the incredible lioness. She like just gets huge and angry and like jumps on him and like savages him with claws and teeth. In it, he says afterwards, like he's lying on the ground, like, oh, that would have killed a normal man, but luckily dark forces protect me. The thing about that is that she's also naked, like all her clothes come off when she transforms, and he's got googly eyes, because like, ooh, so sexy. So it's gross. It's really gross. Because like she like crotch grabs him as she's like eating him, and he's like, ah, what a show, her vagina. Yes, best guy.
Just one other thing. Was the man in the pickle suit involved in the Forces garbage?
Pickle suit. Yes, in a real life ruse, Chris was invited out on a date by a supposed fan. It was a girl posing as a fan. In fact, it was a trap for her. She
I've seen
met up with
this.
him and his dad, and then his dad left them alone, and they walked around the mall. And then a man wearing a pickle costume came out of the shadows and hit on the girl that he was on a date with. And the girl was, because it was planned from the start. She's like, "Oh, I like this guy," and she just left Chris and went
go
with
see
the
Watchmen?
guy. Jess, I really like your face right now. It's incredulous as it should be. And he got cucked by a pickle man. Yeah. I'm so glad you reminded me.
Oh my fucking
About-
god.
about-
Jesus
about how
Christ.
the man in the pickle suit tricked me again. For a while after that, he would make mention of a man in a pickle suit. And it took a while for it to come to light what exactly he was talking about. But when it did, best guy.
It was just because not only Sonichu, but Chris always hated pickles
Yeah.
too, right? Okay.
In Sonichu versus Nate's here, he specifically says, "I hate pickles," as he's eating a hamburger. Everybody hates pickles. Because Chris himself deeply hates pickles. Holy shit! All right, so in date ed, all right, we're getting close now. In date education, this is all sort of like a weird interim period where Chris is not in the plot, and with him out, like the story has no momentum at all. So date ed is a strange side story in which Chris shows the Sonichus doing what he believes the American school system should involve for everyone, which is dating education. So the Sonichus, along with a couple new characters, all go to this class where some lady, some blonde lady is like, hey, to teach you how to date, everyone's going to pair off and get on a computer and instant message on like instant messenger clients with another person. And basically the entire class is just flirt with an anonymous classmate and then, secretly meet up and have sex with them, become their girlfriend or whatever. Basically everyone just ends up fucking whoever they were talking to in class, and that's the class. You just fuck your classmates. That's what Chris really wanted out of this class, right? Like, he says he thinks, like, people need to learn dating, but I think really he just wanted, like, why don't they just have a class where I get laid? That's what he wanted. Yeah, Jess.
Is that going to be this class?
Well, I hope not, because the teacher of that class met an unfortunate end.
Oh.
At the end of that chapter, for no reason at all, there's a similar but not quite the same teacher at the end who's just like, "Hi everyone, your original teacher was killed in a tragic car accident, so I'm here to give the test. Here you go."
Why?
That reminds me of, okay, this was not actually depicted in the comic, but at some point he had these two, fake troll posing as girlfriends, Panda Halo and Sarah, some other Sarah, and there was and I think Ivy was the third one. There were three of them. Yeah. And
Julie.
basically, he was tricked into thinking two of them died. Like, he thought that Panda Halo was killed in the Australian brush fires, and he thought that the other Sarah was like run over by a truck. And then in the comic, he's like, "Yep." He just makes a little side note, like, "Yep, at this point in my life, I had a choice to make. I had these three beautiful women that all wanted me, But luckily, you know, God intervened and made the choice for me. And when he killed Panahalo, and he says tragically, but he's saying this is like, you know, this is how God chose my path for me. He fucking killed the other two, you know, girlfriend applicants and left only one. And he like actually draws like a truck like smashing into another car when he draws the one.
Jesus fuck.
It was a big like red 18-wheeler, so people said that character was killed by Optimus Prime was the joke for a while. Digi.
Requesting a short recess to stop the camera and get more beer.
Absolutely. Oh god. Holy shit, students. There's a lot. There's a lot that I could say. I don't think I'm gonna get to mention everything I could say about Chris Chan.
Jesus, we're an hour in.
As many of the big
Still 40 minutes to this.
So after day Ed, the next chapter.
Not that I'm complaining. I like this. Just god damn.
If I remember correctly, it's like a big lead up to like a big battle. Like, you know, the Jerkoffs come back and forth, and Slawwheel Ryan and Count Graduan. Count Graduan comes back from the moon to be like, you know, we're gonna take the fight to CW to Quickville, and we're gonna make sure that Chris Chan stays a virgin. We're gonna make sure that Virginia is not for lovers but for virgins. This is like their goal. Chris contextualizes it as all these villains in his life are there to prevent him from having sex because they hate love. Yes, Digi.
To clarify that for those who don't know what that means, Virginia is for lovers is the tagline of Virginia.
Right.
Which is where we are right now.
Chris says no.
Oh, they're in Virginia.
Not anymore, because I can't get a girlfriend because of all these villains. These 2-bit villains.
Are we close to Christian right now?
Yes.
We're
Yeah.
We are about 3 or 4 hours away.
Oh, like are we physically close to it?
Yeah.
Yeah, not bad. All right. So, you know, I kind of forget quick. Oh, yeah.
So you mean like is Christian within us? Is he close to our hearts?
Well, certainly.
Definitely. All right. So I kind of forget the details of CWC defense. Whatever. The point is, in Director Amenities is when Chris Chan leaves the Time Void and comes back. And he comes back with a fucking vengeance. All right? Because, like, way back when he exiled himself into the Time Void, he did so because people were criticizing him and saying, oh, you're too much in the story, da-da-da-da. But the trolling only got worse as it went on, right? Like, okay, there was a whole thing where a guy pretended to be this English dude named Jimmy Hill. He pretended to be selling bootleg Sonichu merchandise. there was this guy Clyde Cash, right? All right, so Chris took a break from writing
Clyde
comics
Cash.
at one point, and a fan, Ryan Cash, was like, Chris, why don't you please, start writing again? And Chris didn't answer the letters, and Ryan Cash, fictional character, Ryan Cash tragically committed suicide over the fact that he could no longer read these things. And Chris did like one little like tiny apology on one page. He might have made a YouTube video where he was like, he's apologizing, like, I'm so sorry that I caused this tragedy to Ryan Cash. But then he's also like, man, so much power. He says, I have so much power. I killed someone. And like, he's almost reveling in the fact that he killed a kid. And this is all to appease. This is only because Clyde Cash had risen up to avenge his brother. He was like, Chris, you're a monster. You did this to my brother. Clyde is fictional, obviously. And in fact, lots of other people sort of like would do things and claim to be Clyde Cash. Like he was like a Spartacus situation. I'm Clyde Cash. Best guy.
I just wanted to point out one of my favorite things about Clyde Cash, which is that the image that came to represent him is this, like, if you search like Guido in Google, it's like this.
He's this male model, guy. Like Guido looking, like duck face looking guy. That's Clyde Cash, as Chris knew him. So Clyde, yeah. Anyway, Clyde trolled Chris for a long time, and he was the most constant villain for a long time. Eventually, Clyde did appear in the special comics. There was another saga where someone just did, for fun, he did Chris Chan impersonation videos on the internet just for his friends, but some troll found them, sent them to Chris, and said, this guy is literally pretending to be you. And Chris believed him. And so he messaged this was Liquid Chris, is how he came to be known. He messaged Liquid Chris and said, you're not me, only I'm me. I am Kristen Weston Chandler, creator of Sonichu and the Electric Hedgehog Pokemon. And to prove it, he challenged him to a karaoke contest. And he said, the winner, I will prove that I am the real Christian Weston Chandler by beating you in a karaoke contest. Challenged to the contest, lost completely. The judges all voted for Liquid Chris as the better singer. Yes, did you?
Who were the like? Where was a physical?
No, it was like they sing a song and they post on YouTube. And Chris is like, he has no technical aptitude and he's a terrible singer, even though he thinks he has a great voice. So he was doomed from the beginning. But they picked some impartial judges or whatever. Yes.
Also, is Liquid Chris a reference to Metal Gear Solid?
Yeah.
And does Chris know that? Like, did he make up that name or?
I don't think Chris ever referred to him as Liquid Chris. I think Chris is familiar with Metal Gear Solid, but yes, he's Liquid Chris and real Chris was Solid Chris. Although he came to be known by the trolls as Ian Brandon Anderson. Like, he's Ian Brandon Anderson. This other guy is the real Chris Weston Chandler. Yes.
And Chris came to call him mostly the brown-shirted imposter.
Chris would call him the brown-shirted imposter. And anyway, and there was a whole thing where they gave Chris his own wiki, right? Like, and this guy Jack Thaddeus was the moderator of it. Like, they were all like, Chris, this is your wiki. You can do whatever you want on it, because they just wanted him to have a creative outlet, because they just wanted him to have a place to put his work, because all of his websites were getting hacked, right? Because he's an idiot and he read his stuff unprotected, but also people were trying to get him. People were trying to mess with him and hack his sites. All his websites got hacked. So they were like, Chris, we will give you this wiki. But they kind of were dicks about it and trolled him through the wiki because the moderator, Jack Thaddeus, insisted on running like gay porn ads on the wiki just because they knew who would have found Chris. So Chris, there was a big to do about that. This other guy who created a parody series called Aspertube, which was I could say a lot about Aspertube. It is like a deep criticism of like everything to do with Chris and all the trolls. It's honestly not that bad if you're familiar with the saga. But there was this whole meme where like Chris had billions of fans and like 99% of them all migrated to Aspertube. Like Chris lost like millions and billions of fans to Aspertube. Is the narrative that he bought hook, line, and sinker.
Oh my fucking god.
Maybe like 10,000 people, maybe the audience for Sonichu at this point. So, all this shit was going down, and they'd finally gotten to Chris, and he's finally just like, I'm sick of it, I'm coming back out of the time void. I left the story because I was too much of a Mary Sue insert, and now I'm coming back to be the biggest Mary Sue insert of all, and kill all my enemies in the pages of Sonichu. Yes. So he comes fucking back. He comes to
Was the term Mary Sue or any other alternative used actually? Was it
in the
explicitly
comic?
said,
I don't know.
I'm an overpowered guy. Like,
I don't know if he ever said it, but I think he knew, he understood the complaint against it. But so he comes back and they've got the Sonichu balls. Like, while he's been gone, they've gathered the Sonichu balls. They give it to him, and he becomes Colossal Chris Chan is the name for his final form, even though it's not any bigger than his regular form. It's just like him, but with like some blue fur on his arms. So he comes back and he takes all the characters from Aspertube that are supposedly his characters but parodied. He takes the parody versions of his characters from Aspertube, draws them into his own story, and then has his Sonichu like mind control them and like cure them of their autism is what he does for them. He thinks that the parody versions are his characters but with autism. So he brings them in, cures their autism, and then remakes them in his own image. Like he remakes them as good, pure, wholesome characters, and sends them on their way. And then he goes to like the four moderators of the wiki. There was Jack Thaddeus and there were other people. He puts them on trial for like slandering him and calling him gay and stuff. He has them tried and convicted. I mean, for basically the crime is that they called the characters gay. And then they all get sentenced to death. And then all the characters come together and they all push the like execute button together, including like a 14-year-old girl. Oh yes, the crime was that one of them blackmailed him into killing Simone LaRosichu, the one that was based on Simon the Driller from Thing and Top of Gurren Lagann. They blackmailed him and forced him to kill off the character or they would terminate the quickie. And so he had to do it because it was kind of like a stolen idea. He'd like stolen it from a fan and never credited it properly. So he has Simone go to the toilet, and there's a Voltorb placed next to the toilet, and the Voltorb uses explode and kills her. And that is how Simone Rosichu dies. But so he takes the people that blackmailed him into killing Rosichu, puts them on trial for the murder of Simone Rosichu, and then brutally executes them, like really gruesomely, like saws off all their limbs and like fills them full of drill holes and stuff. Like Simone comes and avenges her mother on. Simone's daughter comes and avenges her mother by like drilling this guy's genitals off. It was really fun.
Jesus.
Oh yes, Liquid Chris appears in the final battle in Director Mid. Like, the quick defense happens, and they all come and fight, and Liquid Chris is there, and Sonichu just handily defeats him. He just, a single Iron Tail, just defeats this imposter in ground, and all these, like, demon trolls, like, reach up from the ground to, like, drag him down. And by the way, this is the point where I have to say that I really love the Liquid Chris character in the Liquid Chris saga, so I'm personally invested in it enough that I went and personally commissioned Christian Weston Chandler to draw some original art that explains the ultimate fate of the brown-shirted imposter. Yes, this is canon as far as I'm aware. So let me just read it here for you. This is Beale. He's a devil. He appeared in the Force and Garbage chapters. So you want to know the fate of the past imposter of Christian, as the original person was known. Simply put, I.B.A. Chandler, he was dragged down to hell, punished of identity theft, and all of his memories and past reincarnations reset. His soul was born a fresh blank into a newborn child, and his old body burned in hell's lava pool. And then I specifically asked, like, have Sonichu, Chris, and Rosechu give their thoughts on the matter. Punished by loss of total identity after stealing another's. That sounds appropriate, opines Sonichu. Chris chimes in, why ask us? Neither of us were there at the event. But I was feeling most appalled of his attempting to claim my own identity and all of my characters and content. Rosechu finishes, yes, but his fate was fitting of his crime. We'll never see him again. So if you ever wondered what happened to Liquid Chris, that's it. He was reincarnated and his body burned in hell's lava pool. So all that happened is, he goes to 4-cent garbage, where Clyde Cash and Jack Thaddeus are both employees, evil employees. And he has his car, it's an Autobot. His car is an Autobot. It transforms into a soundstage, and him and the Chaotic Combo and Sonichu all get up on stage and perform with Guitar Hero guitars. They perform an original song of Chris's set to the tune of Cat Scratch Fever. And the song is called Revive Zordon, and it goes, we've got to revive Zordon. And it's all about how new Power Rangers are bad and old Power Rangers were good. But he plays it so hard that the 4-cent garbage building collapses. And then in the aftermath of the collapse, it is specifically stated that hundreds of people died. Hundreds of people were killed in the collapse, and Chris is there after the carnage he himself has just deliberately caused. He has the fucking audacity to draw himself, like, shedding a single tear and being like, what a tragedy that this had to happen. If only those trolls had changed their ways, they could have lived. What a fucking asshole. Digi.
So in that comic, I noticed that Chris kind of looks like a woman.
Right.
Was he drawing himself that way at the time of that chapter, or is that a new thing?
No, because this was commissioned much later after he had done his transition thing. So yeah, this is him, how he draws himself now.
Was there an evolution of the art style and or writing style over the course of this saga?
Yes. Early on, well, actually, the biggest change is that around the time of the wedding, when he marries off his other love interest in order to pursue Megan, the art style did change and became more deliberately anime-esque. Like the characters had more triangular eyes in the way that a kid would attempt to imitate. It became it started off super goofy and his character had a giant egg head, and then it became sort of anime around here, and then as it went on, the anime influence kind of drained away, but the slightly more realistic proportions to his self character did persist. So yeah, there was an evolution. It never really. I mean, I guess it got a little bit better, ever so slightly. Guy.
I was just hoping you could talk a little bit about the scene between, I believe it's Clyde Cash and Jack Thaddeus, their tragic end in the Force and Garbage building. Yeah,
the Clyde Cash and Jack Thaddeus, they both die in the collapse of the Force and Garbage building, but they don't just die. They don't actually get killed by Chris. For some reason, at the very last minute, these characters that he's hated all along, he takes the opportunity to humanize them. in the most bizarre way imaginable. They like the building is collapsing around them, and Clyde Cash and Jack Thaddeus. And remember, Chris hates gays. Clyde Cash and Jack Thaddeus look into each other's eyes and say, "We're gonna die. Shall we go out holding hands?" And the other one says, like, "Yes, we won't die by his hand," meaning Chris. And they grab each other's hands and jump down an elevator shaft together. And that is how Clyde Cash, the biggest villain, was just yeah, that's how they die. And I don't know why he would do that for these villain characters, but he did, and it was great. And then the building collapsed, and everything was terrible. Gosh, and then he's colossal Sonic, he's colossal Chris Chan, and then there's the big final battle with Slaw Will Riam and Count Graduan, and Chris wins, and and then that's basically the end of Sonichu proper, because the next two entire issues, I think they were shorter, but the two entire next issues are dedicated to a Sonichu Christmas, which is an incredibly boring and stupid story about just like Sonichu and Rosachu living at home with their 3 kids, and like they just make Christmas preparations, and like kids come over for a party, they have a Christmas party, Sonichu like shovels the driveway, and that is pretty much the extent of what happens in Sonichu. I don't think there's even any fights. It's terrible. Hippo.
I remember there was a part, I can't remember where it was, where I think he solves gayness by doing something to the water.
Oh, yeah!
Forgot. Yes, that does happen at the end of Director Amenities. Alright, so the point that he was drawing this, he was still a virgin with rage. One of the things that he does to sort of resolve his own story at the end of Director Amenities is he gets Magi-Chan to send him forward in time to the future, to a future where he is married. He disguises himself as the future version of himself to have sex with his future wife so that he can lose his virginity. And then he goes to the future scientists who are working on a cure for homosexuality.
Oh my God.
All right. They need a sample of purely straight blood in order to complete the cure for homosexuality. So he offers some of his own blood to be used
Purely straight.
I mean, the way vaccines actually work is that you need some of the disease in order to cure it. So were they lying? Is that really how it worked? But supposedly he gives some of his purely straight blood. They create the cure for gayness and asexuality, and basically all alternate sexualities, period. And then he brings it to the past, disseminates it into the water stream, and cures homosexuality and all forms of sexual deviancy for all time. It's never a problem again. Don't ever have to worry about gays.
That's how he becomes transgendered.
Okay, so what's like the timeline of like Director Amenities and Clipper episode of Sonic Clipper? Like when does this like finally?
Director Amenities, I want to say came out in like 2010, and the next two came out like maybe a year or two later, and then it's been radio silence since then. He claimed at one point to be working on a new series about like a team of like government troll busters who would be dispatched to like arrest anyone who was like trolling people on the internet, but that never went anywhere, unfortunately. Guy.
Could you describe a little bit about what Count Graduan and what Slavia look like? Because Graduan in particular is kind of weird.
No, well, Slavia is like a gray-haired old lady with like a Viking helmet. Although she was originally drawn with just the gold Viking helmet hiding all of her hair, so early drawing, like fan part of her has her as like a blonde because it was her gold helmet, but actually she has like long gray hair. Count Graduan is, he is a ghost trapped inside of a magic staff. And he does, in the final battle, he defeats Slow Wheel Riam with like God of War style lightning blades and like defeats her. I don't think he kills her, but he like takes Count Graduan and like smashes it. And that's the end. Even though I don't think Count Graduan ever actually did anything except represent his high school graduation, which is not a thing that's ever said outright in the comic. The rationale behind Count Graduan is kind of mystifying, and I don't even know if it's ever been definitively solved. But I guess that's the end. I guess we've been through all of Sonichu, except for one last thing, and that's the gun comic, which was a Sonichu special. It was about Liquid Chris, and it is about Chris going to Liquid Chris's girlfriend's house with a gun to shoot him in the kneecap and save her from him. And that's the story of the gun comic.
Does he do so?
Yes.
Okay.
Did he?
So I feel like I remember you telling me another story about either Klein Cash or Liquid, like meeting him in real life or something. Like, wasn't there another real life incident he had other than the Pickle Man, where people like trolled him in person?
Well, there was a period where he left the internet, but pictures of him would sometimes surface of him being weird in public. Like for a while, he would go out to these like Virginia community like public parties on Wednesdays, and what he would do is, at this point in his life, he was developing sort of like a breast thing. Like he started to like talk about his breasts as though they were women's breasts, you know. And he would wear what he called a man bra, and he would go out in public and just like proudly with his like butt hanging out and like his man bra on. But he would. There's a famous picture of him. He's standing like this with a man bra on, with the words "want woman" like drawn across, like "I want a woman, come and talk to me." He had another scheme where he would tie like a little
Scheme?
like
Jesus
or, like,
fucking
a little,
Christ.
Like, a little just like personal ad on the end of a string and like throw it out and try and literally like reel in a woman by like
This is
pulling
the
the
fucking Looney
string.
Tunes shit.
He called it the red string of fate, which was a term that he learned from Excel Saga and misinterpreted. Nate.
Could you talk about the tugboat, please?
Yeah, well, the monthly tugboat is what he calls his monthly stipend for disability because he is, I guess, technically qualified to receive, government money. Not very much, but yeah, he had jobs in the past, and he drives a car. It's widely believed that he could work if he wanted to, and I think that's true. But I guess his dad pulled strings or something, and he gets like a monthly income, and he calls it his monthly tugboat because the rationale behind that is when you get a ton of money, you might say your ship has come in, but because he gets a lot of money in little bits, it's like a little ship, so it's just his monthly tugboat. That's what he calls it, Digi.
So what's the deal with the time his dad's house burned down?
That was okay. So after the Sonichu comic was over, like things continued. Like he had another girlfriend named Casey who had this black boyfriend named Lars who was obsessed with boats. And Lars's obsessive love with boats was meant to symbolically mirror Chris's own addiction to video games and his unwillingness to give it up to like live a happy life with Casey. It was a sort of weirdly like high concept.
Are you saying in the comic?
No, that was real. That was a real
He
saga.
really had a girlfriend?
No, it was a fake girlfriend, but he thought she was real. But the saga of Casey was designed to highlight his hypocrisy by contrasting him with the villain character of Lars. And they had a bunch of really great phone calls. What was the question that you asked?
His dad's house burned down.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, he went silent for a while. He came back after like transitioning to female and just totally changing his whole identity. And yeah, his dad died, and it's been tough for him. It's kind of not as easy to like make fun of him anymore due to like just what a wreck he is these days. But yeah, he just burned his house down. He just fucked up and like plugged a toaster or like a coffee maker somewhere, and just like a spark went off, and he burned his own house down. But it was after his dad was already dead, and they had to move. They moved somewhere. I don't know where they moved, but they went somewhere.
Okay, so a couple things about his character. So he talks about people he's made up in real life. I've seen a video of him once, or her, with like, I think a documentary. I mean, like, I'm getting to know her.
Was that Julie? Was that an old video with Julie?
I think this is a recent video. I don't know. He's like, yeah, I'm getting to know her, and we're having a good time. I mean, I know it's all in my head, so whatever. But we're getting to know her. So he seems like he's self-aware about it. And also, the whole situation with his sexual identity, I feel like we should go to begin on that one.
Yeah, I mean, he might. I don't know what he was talking about with the documentary. He's a little more self-aware these days than he used to be. Okay, but his transition is bizarre, and it started. You could sort of see the seeds of it like a long time ago. Like in talking about how much he hated gays before, he would say like he hates all men. Like he hates all men, especially the gays. But he hates all men. He only likes women. He even hates his own penis. He would say all the time, like he hates the sight of his own penis. Like he won't look at it. Like he stops himself from thinking about it. Stuff like that. But he said all that stuff in like attempts to reinforce like how much of a straight man he was, and yet some in there's sort of like a I hate the fact that I am a man sort of theme running through it all. There
All
were
this
things that
self-hate.
he would talk about his breasts as though they were women's breasts, and he would make things with, he would talk about like breastfeeding. He had a video where he pretended to breastfeed a teddy bear. He called himself, for a while before he was just went full on trans lesbian, he called himself a tom girl, which was the, you know, a tomboy is a girl who acts like a boy. So he was a tom girl, which is a, you know, a boy who acts like a girl. So he was just like a very girly man. And you know, his relationship goal, whenever he was like really pressed up, so whenever he's been like really pressed,
I don't know
like,
what just
Casey's
happened.
dad gave him a real, was one of the best like actual person-to-person calls that was ever made, because Casey's dad character was like real hard on him and really like forced him to confront his own hypocrisy, like harder than anyone had before, even harder than Clyde Cash. And when he's pressed on the issue, it generally came out that his real relationship goals, he wanted a girlfriend and he wanted to have a daughter with her and get married with her, but he really wanted to be a house husband, right? Like he wanted to be the housewife in a relationship and like be taken care of and stuff. So yes, there's I don't even remember what the question was. Yes.
We didn't talk about it in detail. We need to go in detail.
Yeah, I should go into detail on it.
Did you intentionally skip those three? 'Cause it seemed like we were-
I like briefly.
We're close to the end of this though, right?
Jesse, I believe you had a question.
Yes. What is the giant penis comic?
Well, the Giant Penis comic is a part of the first three Sonichu specials, which all relate to the Ivy saga, in which he saves and marries and beds Ivy, his then fake girlfriend. But the Giant Penis comic is their honeymoon. And the thing about the Giant Penis comic that stands out to most people is that when he takes his pants off and gets his dong out, his penis is giant and crooked. And the one prevailing theory is that Chris actually put his penis on the paper and traced his real life penis onto the character, because his penis is small and crooked. So it almost works. Yes, do it.
How do you know that?
There's pictures, man. It's been thoroughly documented, and Chris has been like super forthcoming and sharing way inappropriate details.
I don't think I want to look
Like
up
I said,
his
when the
penis
Encyclopedia
pics, but
Dramatica
I'll take your word
page-
for it.
The Encyclopedia Dramatica page happened. He was just like, I'll tell them all the truth and show them how wrong they are. He fucking spilled his guts out his whole life, over and over again. Anything else that I left at the fidget?
So, I think
Oh God! Demerit!
I'm sorry.
I know you haven't been super giving up with like modern Chris. But I know that there was recently like some incident where he like pepper sprayed someone at GameStop.
Don't
And I just want to ask, has he always been an asshole, or is that a recent
He
thing?
has. It is my contention that he has always been an asshole. Now, it's due to his terrible upbringing. Like he was, he's autistic, and he was raised in a family that insisted on no special education for him whatsoever. They kept him out of institutions that the government tried to like get him placed into that might have like given him a special education, that might have helped him adapt to like his circumstances. But his family was like, no, you're doing normal schooling. He to this day believes that was the right decision, but they're clearly wrong. He was raised by his parents are real pieces of work too, Bob and Barbara. So, I'm sorry, what was the question?
Has he always been a piece of shit and spraying someone in the face at GameStop?
He has always been a piece of shit. Well, that was during his transition, I think. So I think the mace was maybe part of his feminine image, and that's just my theory. But he started carrying mace around, and he would go to GameStop, and he was very offended by the Sonic redesigns for not Sonic Boom. Sonic Boom, yes. Hey, raise your hand, kids. And then, yeah, the Sonic Boom redesigns where he made Sonic had blue arms before he had a blue body with flesh-colored arms. He found the redesign so offensive he would actually go to like GameStops and Best Buys and slide like printed inserts into the front sleeve of Sonic Boom games, being like, "Don't buy this game. Sonic arms are not blue." And he would like mess around with displays and like hide the game so people couldn't buy it. And a GameStop employee tried to stop him, and he actually like sprayed mace in the air, in front of a GameStop employee, and like maced him a little bit. The guy's like, oh, in the video, it was recorded on video. and he was tried. And there were a series of criminal trials against him. I don't know if any charges were ever like fully brought against him, but yeah, he did get in trouble for it. That's
Can you talk about his prior history with the law, specifically with his stay from GameStop and almost running over that guy?
Yeah, he was.
Michael Snyder.
There was a local game store. It was run by a local manager they had a long-standing feud with, and he tried. He used to go and volunteer like to run Pokemon card game tournaments there. But the guy eventually banned him for like, I think he wrote something on an arcade game or something like that, and it was, you know, technically vandalism. So he got banned forever. And he spent for years, he tried to get himself unbanned by like making apology videos that I'm sure the guy never saw. But he like apologized and insincere apology after apology. Just trying to worm his way back in there, just so he could buy Eye of Judgment cards. That's what he wanted. He wanted to buy Eye of Judgment cards. I don't even know what those are. That's what
Magic
he
the
wanted
Gathering,
to
my
see.
man. Magic the Gathering.
And yeah, there was an altercation where the guy Chris went to the store and was taking pictures of the store, and the guy tried to chase him off. And then he came back with his mom, and the guy like tried to stop them from leaving, and he actually like injured the guy, like with his car, like he ran him over a little bit. And there were criminal charges there too, and that was a big, and yeah, his mom was implicated in that too for resisting arrest and just being kind of a nasty person.
So what does he do on a day-to-day basis as we speak?
As we speak, I think he plays with Legos, films vlogs, you know, asks for people to donate to him. Lately he's been doing a lot of videos of like, you know, help my family out, donate to my stuff. He might do art. I think for a while he was like making custom amiibos, or like he would take a Sonic amiibo and then like paint it to look like one of his Sonichus, and then like resell it as an official Sonichu amiibo. I don't think he does that anymore. Like, yeah, he does lots
That's a
of
smart
like,
idea for business.
stupid little like creative things like that and tries to sell them. And I think just the fact that he's famous, he probably can make some money doing it, even though like his craftsmanship is terrible. I think, Guy, in the interim, you were asking about Clyde Cash. Like, Clyde Cash was a long-standing meme in the whole thing. Like, there's a lot of stories behind that. Like the time that him and Blue Spike were gonna call. Like, Clyde's MO was generally to blackmail Chris, usually by like guessing his password, his PlayStation Network passwords, and not giving it back until he did something. Usually it was like clean your room, like sell all your old Legos or something. Just like things that he thought. And you remember, this is the guy who was supposedly avenging his dead brother, but like what it actually mostly amounted to was like, it was like trying to make Chris clean his room and stuff. But yeah, there was one time where him and a guy named Blue Spike got him in a call and blackmailed him.
Very fucking disturbing too.
I forget what the other thing was, or shove the Sonichu medallion up your ass. And Chris immediately said, "Yeah, I'll do that." and he did it, and like he didn't even seem that bothered by it. Yeah, and that's a legendary story. Vic,
This is really real life shoving his
Yeah.
medallion up someone else.
Yeah.
It's not on video, right?
I think he took pictures.
But he videotaped
taking
it.
Pictures of it afterwards with like shit all over
Webcam. He broadcasted it.
Yeah, it's gross. It's one of the more sordid episodes of the Christian saga, honestly. But he was really quick to like find it. He did not even seem bothered by the prospect that much. All right, God, yeah, you know, there's a million little stories. There's like a whole bunch of like little bit characters in both the comic and in real life. And if I get pressed, I could probably continue to drag up little details. But I think I have given a pretty good sort of overview and like kind of just bit by bit like pieces of the puzzle sort of image of Chris through Sonichu. Because like I think the best way to get into Chris and understand him as a person is to read Sonichu and try and understand what is going on in Sonichu. And so that's the way I try to structure this lecture. Chris through Sonichu. Taboo.
You're a C next to the.
Oh, well, Chris is really obsessed with protecting his copyright. Even on like little doodles, he'll always put a little, or he used to. He always put a little Sonichu face with a copyright symbol. Even my most prized possession over here, it's got like even though he drew it in 2015, it's got copyright 3-2000 because that's the year that he thought of Sonichu, I think. Or the year that I think that's the year he thought of Sonichu. Copyright 3-2000. Christine W. Chandler, dated 10/6/2015. So yeah, to this day, he's really protective of his copyright. He really thinks that he has like more power over than actually Fiji.
So do you think that if not for his like strong Christian upbringing, like the morality from that, do you think he would basically just have been a school shooter? Like, because he sounds an awful lot like Elliot Rodgers.
I think that Chris is a coward and does not have the guts. I don't think he's got the guts. I don't think he's actually got the guts to hurt anyone, except by accident, like when he kind of hit Michael Snyder.
Yeah, I think he's a bit of a pussy. I don't think he would really do anything.
So, no.
Sorry, I'm looking down. It's like this bright light in my face. It's making me very
How
hot.
would you, if you were to say the whole of this, explain Christianity? Like, what is your opinion of Christianity in this smallish way?
Chris is a victim of circumstance who was raised in an unideal situation. You know, he has autism, and he was raised by parents who didn't understand autism. They didn't make any great attempt to like account for his disability. They tried to just raise it normal, which is, you know, didn't work out. They tried to just ignore his disability instead of like working around it, and they had just their own weird idiosyncrasies, and they coddled him. They really coddled him and gave him. Yeah, he just wasn't exposed to a situation where he could have become a normal person, and therefore he didn't. So I think he is a terrible person, but it's, you know, like as with everyone, he's a product of his circumstances. Yes.
Do you think there's hope that he will ever cure or rise above his virgin age?
He is not a virgin anymore.
What? Whoa! Where is this from?
He did, yeah.
Really?
He bought a cross. That's yeah. Good for him. He did get a prostitute, and he sort of vaguely alluded to it at first, like, oh, I'm not a virgin anymore. Ooh, I won't tell who it is. But then he made like follow-up comments that made it pretty explicitly clear, yeah, he was hired a prostitute. I think it only once, as far as I know. Did you?
Does he still have a dick?
Yes. Yep.
Do you think we'll all know as soon as he does?
I don't.
Or do you think he'll ever go through it?
I don't think he'll ever go through with the operation. Guy.
He does have a tape piercing though.
Yeah, his unclip.
Oh.
Yeah, even I had some trouble saying that.
Does he have any plans for the future? Does anyone think of what he's going to be next, or is this story pretty much going to go into boredom town?
It has, for me, it has already descended into like he hasn't put out any work in a long time. All he does is vlog and like sometimes take videos of like Lego buildings he's made recently. I don't find him interesting anymore, and he hasn't. Someone somewhere said that he was being paid to make another issue of Sonichu, but I have not heard anything about it from like the quickie, so I have no idea if that's true. I hope it's true. I have been yearning for a new issue of Sonichu and not a fucking Christmas special for like, 5 years now. It's yet to happen. There was like a fake Sonichu 11. Is that what you were gonna ask? Yeah, there was a fake issue that one of the side characters in Date Ed was Reginald the Sneasel, and the fake issue 11 was released, and it starred Reginald the Sneasel, and basically the kids like drink cleaning fluid under the sink and become mentally retarded, and Sonichu and Rosechu have to like smother them with pillows in their cribs.
Oh my
That's
god.
the story of Sonichu 11, but it turned out that it wasn't canon, unfortunately. Jesse, do you have a question?
I was going to say, what do I think?
Talk to your doctor. I'm not an expert in that field. All right, so are there any last questions for Professor Ben in Sonichu 101? Guy?
It's not a question. I just wanted to promote one more great Christian meme, which is the life upgrade of the PS3.
Oh my God! That reminds me of one last saga that I need to launch into because it's fucking amazing. That is the Jinkies Jenkins saga. So the Jenkins saga. well, there was a fake forum set up for trolls. Like, it was real trolls on this forum pretending to be fake trolls that had, like, a very regimented sort of thing. Like, there were bounties placed. Like, there were fake bounties for hundreds or thousands of dollars for, like, get pictures of Chris. Or, like, you know, like, fuck Chris in this or that way. And the top prize was 9,001 Nigerian dollars. If you could, if you, a troll, this was for trolls, remember, get that fucking cat out of here. If you could destroy Chris's, if you could destroy Chris's PlayStation 3, which he called his life upgrade. So Chris, get this fucking cat out of here.
Hey, come on.
And get this fucking guy out of here.
Jesse, you're out of here.
You're out of line. Demerit. That's 2 strikes.
Jesus fucking Christ.
That's as far as we can go. And the cat came right back.
No, get this fucking Jesse. I can handle it. I can't handle this fucking cat.
Maybe
You allergic?
Anyway.
So there was a bounty for a troll who could destroy his upgrade. So Chris pretended to be a troll on the fake troll forum. He disguised himself as Jenkins Jinkies, a 14-year-old boy who had coincidentally just moved in to the house across the street from Christian Weston Chandler. And so he put a t-shirt over his head and went into his local Salvation Army and filmed a video of himself explaining why he hates Christian Weston Chandler and pledging his allegiance to Clyde Cash and swearing to get the information that the trolls prayed about Christians. And so anyway, as part of the Jenkins Jinkies saga, I don't know why he thought this would work, because the bounty was exclusively for trolls, but Chris himself took his PlayStation 3 out into the driveway and smashed it with a rock, like on video, thinking somehow that Jenkins Jinkies would see it and take pictures and like report it to the quickie and therefore collect the bounty, even though that was not what the bounty was meant to be for. So he completely fucked it up. But he did in fact destroy his own PlayStation 3, thinking he could collect on 9,001 Nigerian dollars. Never got it, but somehow, even though he was broke all the time, he was somehow able to get like $500 together in like a week or 2 weeks in order to buy a new PlayStation 3 because he wanted it that much. And that was during part of the saga with Casey and Lars, in which his like video game addiction. They were trying to contrast him with Lars's his sick love for boats, in which Lars on the phone would be like, I got boats all over the yard, boats on the roof, I got paint sets for boats I ain't even own. Which is supposed to be like Chris buys DLC for games he doesn't even own.
Yeah, I've heard he does that too.
Jesse's dead. But I could talk all day about more minutiae with all these fucking names on here, the things I never even got to do with. But this is all for you to discover on your own. This is the start of your own Sonichu quest. You're on Christian Weston Chandler quest. Just head to the quickie and pick a random article and just start reading. Or just go and read Sonichu, and if you don't understand something, go look it up on the quickie and just you'll put all the pieces together. And someday you can be a genius like me and know all this crap about Sonichu. And I guess that ends just like Digi.
Who are you, Professor? Tell us where we can find more amazing content that you put together.
You get an A. Very much. I've been Ben Saint, and I'm on YouTube as Ben Saint, and I do Nuzlocke videos, and I have a webcomic called The Vapors, and a new one coming out called The Champion, and those are on saintcomics.com. I'm on Patreon at patreon.com/Ben Saint. And I guess that's all you need to know about me. So thanks for watching, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
Tails gets trolled.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tails gets trolled. Okay. 101 PCP University lecture. I might end up doing this one too. I actually really enjoyed this. I'm sorry I'm a little tired. It's almost 5 a.m. I decided to think that this would be a good idea to record this late. It's kind of really hot and bright in here with this light in my face, so I'm kind of like looking down the whole time, but I'm listening, so there's not really anything I have to really look at. But this is really fucking good. Had a good humor. That guy is still on the floor. Jesus Christ. I just realized he's wearing 2 different shoes, or does he have a broken foot? What the fuck? Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. He said something about Casey's dad. I'm gonna check that one out probably next. Because I did find out there's a Liquid Chris movie on YouTube. It's like 2 hours long. A lot of these are like 2 hours long. So I'm gonna get to that one too. So stay tuned for more exciting Chris Chan content. Good night.